Hey, according to that, I am live. Where am I? I'm over here. Let me make sure I'm in frame. Good to see you. And yes, we've got the Sergeant Bilko. I should have set this up a bit earlier. I just set it up a couple of minutes ago. So, yeah, sorry, it's a little bit close call tonight. It's like 1 or 2 minutes before. But I am here. I've got topics to talk about. I hope that you're all well. That is the Tokyo Digital Crew. I'm Hugo Simon, and it's great to see you. Yeah, got a lot of stuff going on at the moment. It's been a good week. I went to a rugby thing today. Hey, Devo Hunter. Got a little bit sunburned, a little bit tired. Nissan R33Z Tune. Good to see you. Boom indeed. And that's not a username I'm familiar with, so welcome if this is your first time watching live. But yes, or if you're another username, welcome anyway. Chris Rodham, good to see you. Squatty Chip, good to see you. We are all good. Boom shakalaka, indeed. That is a true statement. Yeah. So we've got some bits and pieces. I guess I'll do some announcements maybe a little bit later on once people have rocked in a little bit. But yeah, I am good. The app, we've done the wireframes and everything. We're doing the beta build at the moment. I'll be sharing out. Hey, Yoda Junior. I will be showing the beta invites soon. I can give you a little peek at what some of the look and feel is going to be. It's basically going to be a app for watching YouTube videos, and it looks super cool, as you'd expect. So for example, I don't know how well you can see that, but that's going to be the splash screen layout for the beta. In fact, it's out of focus, but that's probably for the best. It's going to be really cool. It's going to be really cool. And yeah, and the player screen as well. Well, you can't really see very well, but it's going to be cool. So yeah, that's moving forward. I'll be sharing that soon. Hey, King and Kodos, good to see you. Robert Old Dude, hey, look, everyone's rocking in. This is good. And my subscriptions are a freaking mess as well, and I can't take it anymore. And, you know, I was actually looking around on Reddit and stuff like that, like what people do when they look up these issues that this is intended to deal with. And there are, you know, I mean, I think I found this before. There are some Chrome plugins and stuff like this, but they don't really, they're not a great solution. They kind of address the same issue, but they don't do it very well. You know, I've actually spent this week playing around with a couple of other solutions I found, and you know, you can't manage a whole lot of subscriptions. It's slow, it's kind of buggy. So you know, no, this is really going to be cool. And you know, the prototype, it works great. So yeah, it's going to be really cool. Mr. Cordy Chip, one of your classes got moved to tomorrow, and you look depressed. You're looking forward to your classes, Mr. Cordy Chip. I'm sorry about that. I won't be talking about Zimbabwe tonight, even though I've been posting a bit about it today, just because military coups are not cool. I tweeted a few of my thoughts on this today. Part of the reason, I suppose, is that my dad is friends with a guy who carried out 4 military coups, and he considers that person not to be cool anymore. And he talked about this when we were a kid. You know, we were actually, in all the excitement because of my dad's role in the New Zealand Army, we were actually under house protection for a time while he was doing the counterintelligence to the coup in Fiji, which is also where my dad is from. He's from Fiji originally. But yeah, the Sitivini Robuka, you know, used to come. Apparently, when I was a kid, he was at barbecues at the house, you know, which all the cadets had at the officer cadet school that my dad went to. I don't know. So all these sort of things, talking about how great it is that there's been a coup in Zimbabwe. Are you kidding me? I mean, granted, you know, getting rid of one guy, but coups are just never cool. Words to live by there. I'm not going to go any further into that. But yes, been following that. I've been watching some more cool Netflix stuff. Watched an interesting documentary yesterday on DMT, the soul molecule, I think they were calling it. Basically a psychedelic drug that was that people use, a powerful psychedelic that seems to induce near-death experience type experiences, that was run in the clinical trial again between 1990 and 1995. Super interesting to hear about, although they seem to have come up with some kind of spaced out conclusions about what was going on. Like, you know, it was actually enabling travel to a different dimension, and not that it was just the brain's internal mechanism to prepare the body to not totally freak out while it dies. Found it really interesting. But yeah, I was watching that yesterday, and we sort of had a bit of a chat online about that today as well. And hey, this is my show. I get to make whatever tangents I like. You guys are rocking in. I'm getting comfortable and warming up. We do actually have a lot to talk about today. I've got a lot of Japan topics and some interesting things, so I will get into it in about like 15 seconds. But yeah, I just want to welcome you all in. This is the whole... Mr. Cordy Chap is very tired. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm a Fiwi rather than a Kiwi. Well, my mum's Australian and my dad's Fijian. I'm the only New Zealander in my family. Well, my father's a New Zealand citizen now. He took citizenship. But, yeah, I'm the only natural-born New Zealander in my immediate family, actually. So, yeah, I'm a Kiwi, but that is true. Kane Kodos, it is an interesting topic, and there isn't enough research. Well, apparently there was a lot of informal research in the 60s and 70s until it was made illegal. But yeah, I think it actually would be interesting to actually, I mean, even watching that, it would be something interesting to watch more structured scientific research around. But yeah, Sambuca. Sambuca, is that what you get from Sitivini Rambuca? I'm sure I'll be very happy about that. In other words, I can never become an Australian politician. Oh, I'm crushed, my life is over. I can never become an Australian federal politician. God, I mean, you know, what's going to become of me? I'll never be. Seriously, if you want to become an Australian politician, I think you deserve everything that happens to you as a result of that. Seriously. So yeah, what do we got tonight? We have stories, we have topics, we always have stuff. Questions, comments, feel free to drop them anytime. If you type like @Hiko-Simon, it'll flash red, and although I generally miss a lot of the white stream, I do notice if you put Hiko-Simon on it. So do that and I will notice. So, you know, direct questions at me, I will stop, I will take any tangent. Try to make it interesting, try to make it a tangent I can run with, but I will do that. But otherwise, I'm just going to go through my stuff and do what I do. Become a New Zealand politician. Yeah, well, we have those. They're called shepherds. No. I mean, I'm being harsh on it, but seriously, I mean, New Zealand politicians are very different to Australian politicians. But no, no. Thank you for the offer, but. Besides, I haven't been in New Zealand for I can't even vote in New Zealand. If you leave the country for more than 3 years, you can't vote there. You know, if you come back, I can go back on a trip and re-trigger my right to vote. So I think maybe I am entitled to vote at the moment, because I went back a couple of years ago. But no, I don't even qualify to vote, let alone represent. So there we go. Don't need to be Prime Minister. So anyway, economics. Yeah, it needs a bit of refining the terminology. But no, it could work. It could work. So let's get into it. This is a good topic, actually. You guys are interested in Japan. I'm here talking about Japan. Japan is making it easier to get into Japan, and not only to make it easier to get into Japan, they've actually integrated a Barringer. I could be a state level poly. I could indeed. I could become the Premier of Queensland. I could be the next Sir Joe Bjelke Peterson. And again, why in the hell would anyone ever want to do that? But yes, you're correct. I could be a state. Although I'm not an Australian citizen. Now, can you be a non-Australian citizen in a state poly? I know I'm entitled to. My mum is Australian, so I can become an Australian, I think, whenever I wanted, if I wanted to. But yeah. But anyway, thank you, because I could see that in bright orange, so I responded to it, and that's what you should all do. New cookery show. Well, why not? Do you pay taxes to Japan based on your New Zealand income too? Says Misers. I don't earn New Zealand income. In fact, I only had debt. I left the country with a student loan debt, and that's part of the reason I left the country, and it's part of the because I would never have been able to pay it back very quickly on New Zealand wages. I made better wages in Japan, and when I paid it back, I was thinking, well, why in the hell would I want to go back? So thank you, New Zealand loan debt. You made sure I never go. You basically are a big part of the reason I never went back. So there you go. All I did was pay off my debt, close everything. I'm completely shut down from my New Zealand existence. So yes, if you want to come to Japan, they recently instigated a point system for permanent residents. In fact, very much like what New Zealand, Australia, Britain, America all have. They have these point systems. And under the system, if you accumulate 80 points, you get to be a permanent resident within 1 year. Now, remember, it took me 10 years. If you're married, it used to be, if you were married, it could be 5 years, and if you're single, it was 10. And I got married after I'd been here for 10 years, so I was double qualified by that point. But they've allowed people now, based on certain, given the labour shortages everywhere, if you meet certain criteria, you can actually now, if you have 80 points, based on how they allocate points to certain qualifications, you can get to be a permanent resident in 1 year, which is just crazy. So what are those criteria? Japan has a very low percentage of foreign residents, by the way, as it shows here, even less than Korea, 1.6%. And those criteria summarized here are the 3 types of people that Japan wants. There's a whole breakdown of this, but basically academics, people with technical expertise. I've always said this as well, don't rush to Japan, don't stop your degree, don't stop your apprenticeship and then come to Japan without it and try to make do here. You can do that, but you'll just be an English teacher. I mean, when I say just, you know, you'll fall into the default jobs. You'll be a bartender, an English teacher, you know, or whatever forever. And you'll never take it beyond except becoming a bigger bartender, owning an English school or whatever. I don't know why you'd sell yourself short. You've got those jobs that you can fall back to without necessarily having these big qualifications. But if you have a trade now, it actually equates to. But look at this, in terms of the people who can come on. If you have a PhD, you get 30 points. If you have 7 years of research experience, 15 points. If you're in your 20s, I don't know if this applies across the board, you get 15 points on your way to 80 just for being in your 20s. And if you work for an organization that receives funding for innovation, patents, published papers earn points too. So again, if you do research, you know, don't drop out of your degree to come here. Nothing wrong with slinging booze, Odie Jr., nothing wrong with it, but just point is you just increase your options. And to me, that's what life is all about, is increasing your options. So that's for academics. Yeah, in terms of if you're earning salary and so on, and you know, and you have a technical degree, you get all these extra points. So again, stay home, finish your degree, study up. You get points for studying Japanese. In fact, I believe if you show that you are, I think it's got it down the bottom there. Savvy business people get points. In fact, apparently, if you earn $265,000 US a year already, you just get 50 points off the bat. In fact, that's kind of crazy. If you're young, being in your 20s gets you 15 points if you are a researcher or hold a technical job. So there you go. If you have a lot of work experience, if you've worked for more than a decade in your chosen career, you get 25 points. If you speak Japanese, you get 15 points. I mean, just being in your 20s and speaking Japanese, you know, gets you a lot of points there. So the stream health is not good. Hopefully it will recover. Hopefully you can still see me. I'm going to keep doing this. Just throwing the jokes around, says Odie Jr. I think I might have missed the jokes there, but here we go. Screw New Zealand loan debt. Myers, damn, waited 10 years for your PR, but you're not smart enough to get the 1 year one. Well, this just came out. But yeah, having a good income obviously helps. So, yeah, you know, it's very much like Western systems of immigration, but this is kind of, it's opening the door now. Bold, 100 points indeed. Give that man permanent residence. By the way, I was thinking about this today as well. So on the boldness thing, since we're going down this, I mean, I don't care. I really, obviously, I'm quite comfortable with it. My head is in a weird shape. I'm actually quite comfortable with how I look. You know, it's fine. I you know, I have the advantage of never having really been that good looking in the first place to have fallen from a great height. I've pretty much just gone like that. So, I mean, when it happened, I did use Rogaine for a time, and it worked. I mean, it does work, but you have to keep using it. And the moment you stop using it, it just goes back. And it's kind of a pain in the ass to use, and it does have side effects and stuff like that. Like, it can be bad for your heart and stuff like that. And it does seem like a pain. I was cropping it short, and I just, who cares? The one thing about that is it's not the appearance thing, it's the sunburn. Like even today, it's having to wear a hat. I wear a hat not because I'm embarrassed about my head. I wear a hat sometimes because it sucks getting a sunburned head. You know, you get dizzy, you get headaches, you get sort of sunstroke more easily. And for that, I would like to get some more coverage back on top. But it's, you know, it's mainly for that. But I've been holding out because Shiseido, the Japanese cosmetics companies, actually, apparently they said in 2016 that they would release a product in 2018 developed on iPS stem cells that would be used for regenerating hair. And although there are many treatments out there, I've been always saying 2018 is just around the corner now. If Shiseido actually brings us, if this isn't like vapor hair, I made that word up, by the way. I made that word up. I'm going to patent it, trademark it. Vapor hair. If it's just vapor hair and it's not coming, then screw them. I'm just going to. But if it does come out, I think I might actually try it. It might be an interesting thing to do on the show every week, to show my progress on it. But that said, I'm not going to grow it out. I actually quite like it cropped anyway. It's easy to look after. Never been an anti-whaling activist. 15 points. I like these. There are some good suggestions here. But there we go. So I don't know. We'll see. Japan has an answer for everything. That's what I accept for whaling, I guess. The wannabe bolt. I don't know. I don't even know what that means, Sergeant. But I'm quite comfortable as I am. But like I say, if it can fix the sunburn, I'm quite happy to do that. This is interesting. The Olympus Scandal is being made into a TV series. I don't know how they're going to do this, given that, yes, while the face of the scandal is definitely an upset British expat who was working in this company, and quite rightly discovered and outed a whole bunch of fraud. The TV show, who is it being made by? It's going to be based on his book, and it's being produced by an American company. But the thing is, this whole thing took place in Japan, really, with Japanese people. I mean, he was sort of the whistleblower, and I guess that's what the story is going to be about. But, you know, I'm kind of curious. What I'm curious about with this is that I have worked with and supported and been around and observed a lot of people in his position, the foreign sort of expat boss in Japanese companies, and seeing what they can do, what they can't do, where they get isolated, where they succeed, where they fail. It's an interesting phenomenon, and I am really curious to see how they will tackle this as a TV series, which you could make a very interesting TV series on expats, you know, coming over here and succeeding and failing and whatnot. And indeed, in this case, you know, whistleblowing against the company that they work for. So I'm curious to see how this comes out, but it's going to be made in America. I don't know, are they going to get a whole bunch of, you know, Chinese and Mexican actors to play the Japanese or something? Who knows? That's generally how it plays out, but I'm still happy to see what happens. Old dude, you remember that? Well, there we go. And then 5 points, aesthetic. What happens when you report fraud to your boss and your boss turns out to be in on it and shits on you? What's wrong with old dude? Oh yes, the Olympus Scandal. Well, and remember in this case, he was the CEO of the company, I believe. He was actually kind of the boss, which made it kind of weird. He was whistleblowing on his subordinates who all ganged up and got rid of him. Yeah, it's a funny old thing, isn't it? Someone with ethics. Olympus was genuinely very messed up. I wouldn't say it was typical, but we are seeing similar things happening with Sharp going bankrupt, with Toshiba going up the crapper, with the scandal at Nissan, which we're about to talk about. There are definitely things there, and maybe this ties into the next topic, which is, you know, sign of the times. There are companies out there, of the numbers being thrown around at 65%, 70%, 80% of okay, so this is a different statistic actually, to one that I'm going to talk about in a different story later on, but there's this phenomenon where it used to be that the Japanese kids would go through hell in high school trying to get into a good university. Then at university they would just go crazy because nobody really cared about your grades or whatever. Your university would just determine what level of a job or salary you got when you joined a company, and then you joined that company for life. That was the idea in the 80s and the 70s. And so you know, it was sort of life or death to get into a good university, because that would, on a 4-year delay, determine your job, and then you'd kind of have a bit of a holiday for 4 years, and then you'd go into a company. However, this whole thing about, with the economy going down the crap, at first there was a period really, since I got to Japan, of people being very stressed out about trying to find a good job in a company. And, you know, this whole thing about when I came to Japan originally, you know, 1998, 1999, I went to these job fairs and so on, and people would still get various different suits. That women would still wear sort of bright dresses and so on. But somewhere along the line, the fear of being cut from these mass selection processes, in light of how tough the economy was, meant that everyone started wearing the same suit, including women, the same hair, the same, trying not to stand out in a negative way, and it just became this huge, really depressing life or death job hunting sort of thing that happened for these university students. Sometimes they wouldn't, you know, starting from 1.5 years before they graduate. And yet now the tables seem to have turned, and I think this is a really, really good thing in many, many ways. But what's happened now is that well, for a start, 80% of people who finally get a serious offer from a company that they plan to take report feeling depression at the idea that they're going to be locked into working at a company. I mean, people used to be used to fear being locked out. Now they're fearing being locked in. Not only that, but there's another story I'm going to share later on, which talks about how 65% of There's a very good reason why that's there. I'm going to get to it, and it's going to make a lot of sense, but I'm just going to leave it there for now, and I'm going to continue talking what I was just talking about. So bear with me here. Yes, now apparently 65-70% of university students who get offered these positions, which it used to be, you know, coming up to the castle jobs, sort of bestowing these jobs on these very lucky selected people. Now 70% of them are turning down these offers, and so these companies will have like 10 open positions, and they'll offer like 15, or they'll offer 10 people, and they'll have those accepted, but then only 3 of them will actually show up for work, and then they'll be end up 7 headcount short when they're supposed to have 10 starting for the next year. And this is happening with a lot of companies. And what's happening is that, you know, of course, everyone's accepting every offer that they get, they're pocketing it, but then they're deciding later on which is the best one that they like, and they're throwing away all the other ones even though they accepted them. So companies are going apeshit, saying, what are these young kids doing, thinking that they can just throw away our job offers? But at the same time, it's kind of cool that the students are not being held themselves, you know, being treated kind of like, it shows where the market's now become a seller's market. And yeah, these kids, I mean, the market here has always suffered from, the economy in Japan has suffered from the lack of fluidity in the job market, the fact that people are just too scared to change jobs. And it gives, but when people are afraid of not being in a lifetime job, or they're scared to change jobs, it gives all the power to the employers. And they've taken advantage of that. You know, they've not given pay, you know, wage increases. They make people do all this sort of overtime without reporting it. You know, this whole working to death phenomenon. All of it's based on the power relationship between employers and employees in Japan. The fact that we have a generation of new hires coming through that really are not going to stand for that shit, I think is a really, really good counterbalance to, you know, 50, 60 years of bad behavior. And this isn't Japanese culture, but this is where it really is at the moment. You know, Japan is underemployed, and in ways that you never would have expected. It's becoming culturally. The culture is changing. The work culture is changing in light of that, in ways that it logically should, and maybe it should have changed a long time ago. But now it really is, so it's pretty cool. I'll come back to that again. Filmed a hair care promo video. So this was a guy who I got a message on my SoundCloud the other day, and this person went and took the track that I remixed that was originally Let It Never End by Fogheart. He made an awesome track which I remixed. I really love the remix. Oh, and this has me on another segue as well. The track came out really well anyway. He made the original sort of very nice sort of ambient techno-y track, and I kind of put more of a beat on it and made it more of a dancey sort of a track. And this guy used this in like a sample production hair products, kind of ironic I guess, but you know, he put it on a sample hair products video, and it came out looking really, really good. So yeah, it's kind of cool when you see something that you contributed to. I wouldn't take credit for making it. This is definitely Fog's track. I just put a bit of a beat and a bass line on it. But it was really cool to make that with Fog, and two, it was really cool to see it getting picked up and used kind of, you know, in cool, appropriate ways like that, like by this person. So that was pretty cool. Plus, that's a good thumbnail, so I'm just going to leave that there. So yeah, that was quite cool. Down the bottom here, we've got Australians back gay marriage and non-binding vote. Good on you, Australia. Ironically, actually, the distribution of the fors and against, every state was for. Some states, you know, resoundingly, I believe Northern Territory was the biggest margin. It was like 70% for or something. The lowest state, so when you look at Australia and you assume where the most redneck states are, which will ultimately, you assume, be the most likely to be against allowing gay marriage, or marriage equality, I would like to say, in Australia, you would have said Sydney, Victoria being the most liberal, and Northern Territory, Western Australia being the most sort of redneck. Turned out to be totally the reverse. Sydney had the lowest for vote. Conservative government in Australia with a lot of people who are against, but there again you get a lot of liberals. You'd expect Queensland, absolutely, and Queensland was still more in favour of gay marriage than New South Wales, believe it or not. So I thought that was a really interesting result, although it's a very conservative central government at the same time. It will be interesting to see. I think there are some socially liberal people, obviously. I mean, still the Australian Federal Parliament, you never know, you know. It's full of all those crazy disloyal foreigners and so on, but yeah, Natalie says Western Sydney. I think I know what that's a reference to, and I'm not going to say what it is. But the point is, it's a very diverse country, but it's nice to see. I mean, I give Australia a hard time because in New Zealand we look at Australia as this massive redneck, you know, Alabama prison colony, and we make fun of it. But actually, no, Australia, you can do good things sometimes, and it's good to see that, because I would be living there if I wasn't in Japan. So it's good to see that you're able to make the right call sometimes. Mr. Cordy Chan, if you don't want to go to Western Sydney, hey, no, I wouldn't want to. I can't think of anything I know of in Western Sydney. Eastern Sydney has fantastic beaches. Northern Sydney has good beaches. I'm a beach person, so no, I don't know why I'd want to go to West Sydney. But yeah, anyway, so that was good. My man's Peter Durf, he has an awesome Twitter feed. You should all follow it if you're not following it. And he actually submitted a chain of tweets, which were basically of crazy. So if you've ever searched for an apartment in Japan, they have these sort of universally same format maps showing designs for Japanese apartments. And there's been this thread going on of you know, hell apartments, which has been going on Twitter. A lot of them are sort of fake and funny. A lot of these are real though, and that's the funny thing. So yeah, if you look at Durf, he did this whole thread, and I wonder if it's possible to even show the whole thread. So, like for example, anyway, this is a this is an apartment map which has a genkan, like an entrance area where you put your shoes and the shoebox, and then it's got this 4.5 mat, which is not very big by the way, 4.5 mat toilet, and which is actually it's described as a Western style room, with the toilet on the far end by the window. This was an apartment, or at least allegedly an apartment map. Let me see if I can figure out. I hope that by doing this, oh, here it is. So you can see some more of these. Rent this place and you can be relieving yourself when the instant you get home without even taking your shoes off in the genkan. So this apartment actually has the toilet. So this looks legit. That's the genkan right there. That's the entrance, and it's basically right beside the toilet and the shower. Some more cool ones. Oh, not that one. I'm gonna go to the hashtag. Damn it. Hang on a sec. Oh god, come on. Let's see if I can get some more of these, because there were some funny ones. So delete that, scroll down. So this one here, the toilet, so this is I've lived in an apartment, triangle shaped by the way, and it was actually awesome. And also like this one, the toilet was sort of near the pointy end. But yes, the question is with this one, the toilet's more challenging. You basically walk across the staircase area and do your business behind the staircase in that apartment. Yes, this one has a 50 mat sized veranda and a 6 mat sized room. Genkan to the toilet again. Kola Rotemburo. Basically, it's you should go and look at these anyway. I mean, this is a map. I don't believe this is real, but check this out. This is the living dining kitchen. Is the outer pink one. Then you've got a bathroom is the blue, and then inside that there's a Western style room, and inside that is the elevator. I'm pretty sure that doesn't. That's not legit, but that is funny. You exit the elevator space to access your toilet and bathroom ring. Outside of that is the living space. My favorite one, I think, would probably be at the bottom of this. The best apartment complex name in Japan, rest in peace, part 2. Kind of disturbing. I mean, he's got a whole lot of these, but this one, also legit. Check out the map down below. It's basically, yeah, it's basically like a maze anyway. So anyway, this is quite funny, and it was good to see. You can see, by the way, oh, now I can unfortunately see some of those comments. Obviously these are auto detected and stopped, but yeah, see, that's not really appropriate. I mean, I guess it's being shown anyway, but you know, no. Behave, James. Behave, James. Be nice. And that's strike one. So yeah. For Yamato, the delivery company in Japan, the most popular one, at Christmas time, around the end of the year, they are expecting already they've got not enough people, and they've been reported to the Labour Standards Bureau for not paying their workers overtime. So they are now trying to attract new drivers for the end of the year, offering 2,000 yen, $20 an hour. So there you go. That is good, I suppose, provided that they actually pay. By the way, Yamato is my favorite delivery company. They're always on time, they're always well dressed, they're always courteous. They are really, really good. It's a song, YouTube it. Okay, well thanks James. I was not aware it was a song. I mean, I don't know why I'd want to YouTube a song with those lyrics, but fine. That's whatever. I was not familiar that it was a song. Yeah, down the bottom I was mentioning how before university seniors are rejecting job offers amid labour shortage, 65%, which I think is pretty good. Black Cat, is that correct? Well, there we go. So that is what I was talking about before. Beaujolais Nouveau is back this month. For those of you who don't know what Beaujolais Nouveau is, I've talked about this every year. It's basically the worst wine in the world. French is like an enormous practical joke by the French. You know, every year they you know, it is kind of a festival thing that they will make some really, really awful, terrible, bitter wine out of the first grapes of the season just to mark the event. And somewhere along the line, because Japanese love festivals, they love parties, and when they heard that this was a big thing in France and that the wine is quite cheap, they started flying airplane loads of the stuff over to Japan and selling the bottles for, like, you know, because you would get the idea, and I know French people in Tokyo who have the idea that Japanese people can't tell the difference between a $5 bottle of wine and a $200 bottle of wine, and as a result they pay to get the special first bottles of Beaujolais Nouveau, to get the first shipments out of France. They will pay $100 for those bottles. You know, granted, things have come a bit more down to earth, and generally lately I went out to dinner this week with some people from my work, and they had the please try the Beaujolais Nouveau, it's just released, it's only going to be $20, but it is like, this is seriously like $2 wine. It's just horrible. I wouldn't pour it into my engine. I told them to take it away, please. It's horrible, but for whatever reason, you know, I think it's just because Japanese love that combination of food and a festival and whatever, that and you know, for France it's been a fantastic business opportunity for them. I mean, they can get rid of all this industrial waste that they keep in France, and they can make good money from it, shipping it all to Japan, and Japanese seem to be happy with it. So yeah, is that a crappy BuzzFeed video? I'm not surprised. Well, that's Japan for the last 20 years. Apparently, I said 15 years on this tweet, but apparently it's been going. It really became a big thing, they say, in 1996 in Japan. But it's really been going since the whole time since I've been here. And I don't know, people, you talk to people now and they're starting to figure out that, you know, maybe this doesn't taste so good. Is it just me? Am I strange? Or is it not? Does this wine really taste bad? People are starting to ask the question, but they're not quite sure, so they're still buying it, so it's still happening. But who knows? They might get there one of these years. I've just realized I've got to save that setting where I don't have the audio input capture on, because it'll leave that humming noise. I'm sorry about that. So yeah, that's something. What else is happening here? We've got, in fact, if I go through this one by one, the US Commerce Secretary says, bear in mind this is the same US Commerce Secretary working for Trump that pulled out of the TPP because, you know, Trump wants to negotiate one-on-one bilateral deals with everybody, where he basically wants to hold a gun to everyone one by one and say, mine's bigger than yours, hand over all your stuff, and let us continue to not concede anything. And in spite of having the 12-nation TPP before this. And so, you know, America volunteered to drop out of the TPP. The TPP went ahead without the America. Plus, the TPP, we deleted all of the crappy. The biggest problem really with the TPP, there are many problems, and if you don't like international trade, you're not going to like it anyway, but the biggest real problem with the TPP was the intellectual property provisions that were basically extending the whole Mickey Mouse never coming out of copyright, you know, forever, in perpetuity, like doubling copyright periods of some countries, making it compatible with these extremely weird American standards, which are just based around the entertainment industry and the content industry in America, and wanting to protect that. So we all flushed that down the toilet and ratified it. 11 nations, including New Zealand, which said for a moment that they were going to pull out, but they came back in. And all seems to be going very, very well. We've got a market that, you know, has most of Southeast Asia, Australia, New Zealand, you know, I think Chile is in there. Canada and so on, doesn't have America. However, you know, U.S. Commerce Secretary who left says, yeah, you're going to have a real tough time finalizing that. You know, it's basically like, oh, I can't believe she's with him. Who cares? Who cares? We're getting butter, and it's not going to be American butter or cheese, because there's still going to be crazy tariffs on that stuff, and we're not going to need to lower the tariffs because you're going to have Canadian butter and Australian butter. Tough. I enjoyed reading that. I'm glad we're going to be getting. Hopefully this will mean an end to butter shortages. Although I did read that there were butter shortages in France last year, just due to the weird weather that they were having there. That was kind of crazy. Hey, Shorto Bodega, by the way, good to see you. I only hang with people who like anything but the martial uniform. I don't even know how to spell that garbage. Good on you, Shorto Bodega. I'm very glad to hear that. Hey, Monterey Jack. I think Monterey Jack is American, and it's not bad cheese. Hawaiian Burger does have some good cheese, although the best ones are the imported cheeses, but they have them on their burgers. So it's not all 100% bad, but you know, again, I don't want a whole trade deal for American cheese, but we're getting all the butter and cheese that we want now, and cars, and all the other cool stuff that America sells, but we're going to get them from other countries. The funniest thing about that would be if China walks in and says, hey, you want me to join the deal? Which everyone does, and you know, Obama pointed out the reason that America should join this thing is because if it's not them, it's going to be China, and then America's going to be screwed, and that could happen now, but that's what Americans voted for, so good luck with that. Where do I go to next here? We've got Kickstarter is offering, this is interesting. With my app, I still am tossing up. It'll be easier to discuss when I've got people and I've got you guys invited to use the beta. I'd like to get your feedback on this, but I've got two problems, as I mentioned before. One is the build cost, which you could do a Kickstarter or something like that, and that's something I'm still contemplating. I want to get the beta in people's hands so I get their feedback on what they think about this. But then I've got the running costs, because I am going to be hosting it. And that is going to be a monthly thing I've got to pay, and you know, and the more people that use it, the more expensive it's going to be. And at some point, even if I pay off the development costs, I'm just going to run out. I'm going to be paying for the whole thing forever. So I do need to figure out how to keep a running cost on it. And that might include offering a subscription, you know, charging a subscription. But it's interesting that, you know, people have talked about Patreon or two-tier system or whatever, and now Kickstarter is actually offering something a bit like Patreon with this thing. I think it's called, what's it called, Donator or something like that. Dripper, that's right. So you could drip feed artists or whatever. And this might be something I might be interested in looking at. Yes, I definitely have a butter fetish. That is correct, ODG. Not really, but you know, I was just like, it's just crazy to be in a country like Japan, richest country in the world, and they can't buy enough butter to make cookies. I mean, seriously, that was just a bit weird. This is interesting, again, sign of the time, because these are all sort of linked as well. The students, 65% of them turning down their confirmed job offers. Now we have the head of the Japanese Trade Association telling the government they need to radically liberalize immigration now because they can't find people to fill the jobs. And it's kind of funny, the article here itself talks about how yeah, some people are worried about that it could affect public safety, but this debate doesn't really happen. When it comes up, people talk about it. They look at Europe and they see all the sort of the riots in France and so on, and the you know, all the fuss in Europe and so on, and they say we don't want that. But frankly, there's never really been a proper public debate in Japan about this, and it's something that the government deliberately liberalizes without making a public debate topic, which I think is a good thing. Seriously, I think immigration is too important to be left in the hands of democracy, actually. I think people are idiots. I mean, I believe in democracy, but also people are perfectly entitled to say that they don't want immigration and close the borders. I mean, that's something they're entitled to do, but I think proactively making that a policy subject, I mean, democracy is always a balance between you know, wanting to kill everyone's next door neighbor's firstborn and making good policy. You know, it's sort of like, and you're accountable for that policy through democracy, but you also have to offer, you know, positive choices for the country. Hiko Mugabe, stop that, Mr. Korichev. But in any case, here we go. Trade groups are now much more aggressively now saying that they need to radically shake up and liberalize immigration, which you can see is happening. And it's happening in Japan, but it's the reason that they're freaking out is that story on the other side of the on the last page. 65% of Japanese seniors reject job offers, and so now they're freaking out and saying, give us cheap foreigners. You know, it's all going to be this sort of balance, but it's all interconnected and linked, and it's interesting to see it all unraveling here, and it's good. I mean, what this means is fundamentally the power balance between workers and employers in Japan is changing, and I think it's going to be a good thing. It's going to mean that the old lifetime system, which, you know, is broken down and doesn't work anymore, is going to be revisited, and it's going to be hopefully a system that's going to be more equitable for everyone. And, you know, well, cheap foreigners, they put high salary, high income is one of the criteria that gets the extra points to come in. So they're not looking for cheap people necessarily. Although the whole worker apprentice scheme is a contradiction to that. So, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, you think what happens is education on the topics at hand. Well, that's true. But the government also consciously, I think, decides it doesn't want young people to be educated or even interested in politics, and so it's complicated, isn't it? You know, and in countries which are more open about talking about any sort of politics, and, you know, you talk about America, you talk about Britain or whatever. You know, every Briton American likes to think that they're an expert on politics, but look at where their politics has gotten them recently. You know, Brexit, Trump. So, you know, there's an interesting debate there to be had. You know, what's the better? Do you trust humankind and the human nature? They're educated and presented with the proper information, they will always make responsible and educated decisions, or are you just democratizing bad decision making? You know, and how much do you trust, and how much do you lead with what you've got, and how much do you trust people? It's an interesting question. I don't have the answer to it, but I am glad that sensitive subjects actually sometimes. I'm beside the same with Australia. It's great that they have a referendum to confirm, hey, everybody thinks marriage equality should be a thing, but at the same time, they could have just passed the law. Seriously, just be leaders. You know, do the right thing. Do you need to do a poll on everything to do the right thing, and to do the right thing? That was the right thing morally, but, you know, immigration is really the right thing for the economy. This is a tool. It's like printing money. It's like lowering, you know, central bank interest rates or something like that. It's a mechanism that you use to run the economy. You know, you could take a plebiscite on every single, you know, decision of policy, but sometimes you just have to make a call. Mr. Cordy Chip, I caught a live Hiko. You caught a live Hiko? Someone caught a live Hiko? Ah, Lekos boy. Yes, you caught me live, that's right. But catch and release is a system that we like to use. Please let me go at the end of the show, but yes, you indeed have me live. Welcome, and it's good to have you, Lekos boy. In fact, I think I've seen your username before, unless I'm mistaken. But anyway, good to have you. And yes, I will continue with the subjects. There's a new Tesla with 620 miles of range, which is interesting, but what's even more interesting is that it can go 250 miles per hour and 0 to 60 in 1.9 seconds, and will be the fastest car in the world when it's released in 2020. Tesla's great. I mean, I know that apparently their factories are like racist and behind schedule and all of that sort of thing, but they make awesome cars, and I you know, and Elon Musk is sending people to Mars and stuff like that. I want this company to succeed. I want to have, I mean, I don't have a car, but I would like one of those. I mean, I'm midlife crisis age. Why not? I'm entitled. That is just awesome. Plus they release these trucks. I'm more interested, of course, in self-driving trucks. I think those are going to be really crazy significant. That is a beautiful car. I think those steering wheels, like the Knight Rider steering wheels, are actually illegal on production cars because they're a little bit, you know, they're hard to control at certain angles, but they look very, very cool. But that is something, that car. So yeah, it's kind of funny. Lately, there haven't been many cars to get excited about, but damn, I mean, what the hell, 250 mile per hour, 1.9 seconds. I think that's faster than the fastest motorcycle gets to, like 100 miles an hour. That is just crazy. Lekos Boyer, I do remember your username, so okay, well there you go, good to see you. You can see me again, by the way, the Big in Japan party, December 3, the link was on the video from last week, but yes, you can go, and there's going to be a release party for the Big in Japan movie that I'll be helping to MC, provided it all goes through as planned in December 3, so look out for that. Yeah, but good to see you again. This was just interesting. Japan Times, a little bit long and frankly a little bit meandering, but it was interesting that this person, who I think is in Osaka, he's like a Russian who grew up in Japan, a Caucasian who grew up in Japan, but then he married a Japanese person now as a half kid. And the term in Japanese for half Japanese is half. Although, you know, I know people say, oh, you should call them double or whatever, but it's just a term. Some people don't like to even acknowledge that there is a term to define that. But it's what it is. What was interesting to me was that this guy's son, who was 8 years old when he came and asked him what half meant, because he was called that. My son's 8, and I've been waiting this whole time, this whole thing about, oh, we got a half kid. I know people who are half growing up who came to Japan, and they had a tough time quite a lot of the time, and it was always like, well, is my son going to have that? You know, when am I going to have to deal with all of these problems with, oh, you're a third culture kid, or, oh, you look different to everyone else, and everyone's going to say, oh, you're a foreigner or something. I've been waiting for that, and it hasn't happened. I mean, granted, we're in Tokyo, we're in a very nice area, and in his class there's a Chinese guy, half Chinese, half Korean. You know, they're not a lot. It's not an extremely cosmopolitan part of Tokyo, but they're not that unusual either, and all the kids settle in, and you know, they get along pretty well. So yeah, I mean, at some point I guess I'm going to have this discussion, but it's gone a lot further, a lot better than I expected it to, which is probably a sign of the times as well. A really interesting story there about being a Russian during the Russian Revolution, and after that, and being a refugee and gradually going west and meeting your Russian wife in Harbin. And it's actually fascinating if you read about Shenyang and Harbin and Dalian and so on during the pre-war war sort of periods, and how actually cosmopolitan those areas were. Those were really major cities where Russia, China, you know, America, France, Britain did serious sort of, you know, interaction. There was real serious cultural intermixing as well in those places, which I find fascinating, just for what those places must have been like, apart from the fact they're freaking freezing because they're right beside Siberia, but they were big serious cities as they remain. But yeah, and he ended up eventually just keeping on going east until he got to Japan. Interesting story. Not much of a conclusion about what to do with the identity thing, other than that it's kind of, you know, just talking about the phenomenon of being someone who grew up as a refugee in Japan, as a Caucasian who considers himself Japanese but wasn't treated that. I think that's changing, but yeah, it's an interesting read from the Japan Times, so I bookmarked it. This kind of sucks. The LDP is promoting an exit tax on all travelers, Japanese and non-Japanese, to promote tourism of 1,000 yen per person. I'm not exactly sure why they need to collect 1,000 yen per person from every person leaving the country, but it seems like, I don't know, I think it'll be counterproductive to levy this a tourism tax on tourists. It'll make them feel like they're not welcome. But apparently that is coming, so look out. Do they have a proposed date? I think they're still just debating it, but it is interesting. Nihonjin, Gaijin, Towazu. It'll apply to everybody. And the idea is to bring it in 2019 ahead of 2020. So I think they want to use it for funding for 2020 stuff for the Olympics and so on in preparation for that. I really hope that they don't do it. I mean, you can collect taxes all sorts of ways, but I think it's kind of crappy to tax the specific activity that you want to promote. That is just me. This is another reason why I was saying before, the labour market in Japan really needs to be shaken up, and there's lots of things that I can point to. I point to this every week, how it needs to be shaken up, but here is one that kind of highlights that. The labour unions of the distribution industries of Japan. And these are the labour unions, right? These are the unions that get together to protect the workers from abuse by their bosses, have all gone together and gone over to the Ministry of Health, Labour and Welfare to file a petition with that government to crack down on malicious fake claims from their industries, particularly the supermarket and department store industries, by workers making claims against them because it's making their industries look like they're bad places to work. Supermarkets, department stores, convenience stores and so on, and other distribution related companies. That labour union wants the government to crack down on claims, on labour claims and consultations coming from people working in their industries, because they're worried that some of these are malicious in nature and designed to make their industries look bad. I thought that was the job of the employers, not the labour unions are supposed to be in there making the claims, not asking the government to block and treat with suspicion claims being made. And the Ministry of Health, Labour, Welfare down the bottom says, sure, why not? Let's filter those. To me, that seems kind of screwy, but that's what you get. Google's moving from Roppongi Hills, or So what are they doing? I think they're getting a second building, is that right? But it says Kara Shibuya, so it sounds like they are actually relocating to a big redevelopment going on in Shibuya. Nice location, big building. Actually, Roppongi, I must admit, Roppongi Hills is kind of a glamorous building, but there's really not a lot going on in Roppongi around it, whereas Shibuya is a really good neighborhood. I mean, if I were working at Google, I would much rather work in a neighborhood like Shibuya than Roppongi. I mean, Roppongi's good. It's got all the bars for picking up gaijin, or for women who want to pick up gaijin guys and so on. You got that going for it, but seriously, I mean, would you want to put your office in the middle of that? I mean, it's close enough to Roppongi if people really feel the need to go there, but yeah, apparently it's going to be part of a big push that they're going to be expanding their operations in Japan, so they're going to need a bigger building. Good for them. It shows that they're doing very well, and I'm curious to see what the new building's like and what the new Googleplex is going to be in Japan. That said, I hope that they're going to keep the YouTube space in Roppongi Hills. I guess they're not. Well, so the downside is that you'll lose that fantastic view that you have from Roppongi Hills, where they have the Google space, which I do like going in and seeing every now and then. The upside is that the space there is a little bit limited in terms of size. It's extremely expensive real estate. So if they can get a much bigger space, if they can get more bang for their buck with the new space, that would be a good thing as well. So hell, and it's Shibuya. I mean, okay, the view from Roppongi Hills is awesome, but if you're in the middle of Shibuya and you've got that view, that's pretty awesome as well. So we will see what's happening. You're going to be working in Shinjuku soon. Which part of Shinjuku, Shotobadoya? The west side, the east side, the north side, south side? West side is kind of common for very well-paying companies. So if you're working on the west side, drinks will be on you, I guess, is what we'd have to say. But we'll see. Don't have that many more stories. This freaked me the hell out. I guess everybody saw this. That robot by Boston Dynamics, I think it is. This thing, man, that was like jumping, and I mean, we're all used to Asimo, right? Everyone's seen Asimo, that cute little Honda robot that sort of, takes 10 minutes to walk up a single step. That is some freaky. I mean, that kind of looked fake. I looked at it again like a couple of times. You can see it's adjusting its legs as it goes through. But damn, I mean, so Asimo's got some work to do, but that is some impressive agility, and I guess this means that there will be nowhere for us to run. Kind of freaky. But yeah, that is just sort of amazing, and pretty much everybody in the comments below, I mean, damn, look at that thing. Oh, and not perfect, can lose its balance. Okay, so it's not perfect yet, but the point is, I mean, when they turn these things into, killer hunter machines, it's going to be pretty freaky. And Japanese are like, yes, everyone likes this very much. And and I for one welcome our robot overlords that are inevitably coming. This is very important. West side, yeah, I can't do them. I'm not coordinated with my fingers, but imagine I'm doing west side signals here. West side. So you are going to be making some good money near Hatsudai. Oh, okay. I think I know. Well, that's where Square and those guys are. Although there's a lot of IT companies around there. I used to live near Nakanosako, actually, right near the Hatsudai. So that is a really cool neighborhood. Very cool. Very nice. Okay, good on you, Shotobadoya. In fact, you know what? I think DNA is there as well, aren't they? There's a few companies around that way. There are a lot of Japanese sort of IT companies are around that way. That's a good neighborhood. Skynet, indeed. It fell over. It did fall over. Important stuff. I met with Alt Insider. William, what's his last name? He doesn't say his own name. I know him on Twitter as Alt Insider. The Alt Insider podcast 135. He talked to me. He called me up this week. Recorded on Skype a 40-minute long conversation with me, just asking about my life, my journey in Japan. I haven't done that for a while. In fact, I haven't really done too many of these sort of interviews for people asking me about my life. Generally because people don't find that sort of thing interesting, but to the extent any of you do find that interesting, it was interesting to reflect actually on my journey here, how I got to be here, why I'm here, what I've done since I've got here, I've gotten to where I am. what I've learned along the way, all of that sort of thing. I talked about just a bit of reflection. I guess there wouldn't be that much in the way of, at some point in the bazillion shows that I've done here, I've probably said most of the things that are on here, but it was interesting to put it together in a podcast, and it was a good conversation there. So you can go and check this out on the Elton Sider podcast. And actually checking out his podcast, he's got a lot of good YouTubers on it. A lot of YouTubers, you know, Busan Kevin, Higgins in Japan. So it looks like it's a good thing to subscribe to as well, especially if you're into podcasts. But if you're not into podcasts, I'm on it. Check it out. Support the guy. And you know, and he's a good writer as well. So follow him on Twitter and all that good stuff, and go check out that podcast if you are interested or so inclined. This was kind of funny. So my heart, I mean. Where do you start when you talk about the Japanese opposition party, the Democrats? I always used to joke it was like they're trying to lose on purpose. I mean, it's like they're trying to find creative ways to lose, and you know, they're just like a self-destructing disaster zone of a political party. And you know, there have been some who have just surrendered at the start of the election. They never tried to argue with anything. There have been people who, you know, have just ruined, gone back on every promise that they made before the election in order to lose the next election. So this time, I was always complaining for a long time that that party really needs a big shake-up. It needs a break from the past, from the old leaders who messed up when they were in government. And I thought the chance came with the new leader, Maihara, who was elected as the party leader just ahead of the recent election. And I thought this is a good thing. He's a fresh face. He's not tainted so much by being associated with the worst aspects of the last administration. He's going to clean house, and Democrats are going to have a fresh start, and we can have another good chance at having an alternative to the LDP in government. Within a couple of weeks, when the election was announced, he kind of panicked, and he dissolved the party. He broke it up. And there's two articles I posted here. One is apparently, you know, there was some like consultation where just 2 weeks after being made leader of the party, he told Koike, the Tokyo governor, that yeah, he wants to break up the party. And he defends himself for basically breaking up the party, like leaving it the night before, just before the election, saying that yeah, if we'd tried fighting as the Democrats, we would have done it even worse. You know, the party was practically destroyed in that election. I mean, you talk about someone, if you were scoring by how well they were able to destroy their own party, this guy's the highest scoring. I mean, there are people from the Democrats that I like less. I've always made clear how I really didn't like Noda and Khan and what they did to the Democrats when they were leaders of it. Serial failures, you know, and I ideologically don't really like their inclinations on things either, but I have real trouble with how they went back on the manifesto that they had. But for all of the things, there are people in the Democrats that I like less than this guy. I actually quite like Maihara even now, but holy crap, I mean, in the range of failures, this ranks pretty high. I can't think of in any democracy with any political party, of any significant party, anyone who's ever been quite a spectacular self-destructive failure as Maihara was for the Democrats. I can only think he was doing it on purpose. It's the only way it makes sense. So it was really interesting. Interesting article here. This is a story talking about why Japanese houses only stay up for 30 years. Build, what do they say? Raise, rebuild, repeat. And I myself, I never really understood this. In New Zealand, Australia, most houses are like 200 years old, 100 years old. People do renovations and stuff like that. They update the plumbing and stuff like that. But the houses are built to last. And you know, you put new paint on it, you look after them. You know, they can last a long time. Yeah, in Japan, you go to a house that's 20 years old and it feels old, it doesn't feel nice, and you know, they're kind of crap. And it's just that people don't really look after them because everything is knocked down after 30 years. So why would you invest in looking after a building that's 20 years old when you think it's 5 years away from being knocked down? But based on that, I never understood why people would buy if you know, you've got a 40-year loan or a 20-year loan and the apartment's on average going to be knocked down after 20, 30 years. So it never really made sense to me. This article sort of looks at that phenomenon and actually gives some answers I wasn't fully aware of. It was quite good. It's talking about the trend how people on lower incomes now are getting used to buying older apartments and renovating them instead of knocking them down every time. But I think it goes through that they found this, it was a ways into it. As for housing demands in Tokyo. Where was it? So this is the phenomenon of people now renovating, but I think it was here. Where was it? So basically, I mean, it's a combination of, why do they knock them down? It's got a thing. It's to do with the fact that the housing quality is kind of cheap. People never really invested in Japan in good quality building. You know, and this is true. A lot of houses don't have proper insulation and so on. So there's not a lot to make people sort of hold on to that. Oh man, it was around here somewhere. Wait a minute. Is it demands into new lifestyle, people, urban areas, Saudi, not at all. Oh, I can't find it. There was a really good paragraph in here which sort of explained reasons for it, and now I can't find it. Now I was going to read it. But, yeah. Trust me, it's in here somewhere, and it's worth reading. I'm just going to try it one more time. Where was it? I just skimmed through this just before the show. Yeah, I mean, basically they depreciate in value to near zero anyway, so there's no point in trying to keep them up. You know. You can't resell the land with an old house on it, so the landowners would generally just knock down these things there all the time. So yeah, Odie Jr., sorry that you got to go. We'll catch you next week. I will zip through the rest, but that is kind of good. I got a drone. Check this out. That's me flying my drone that my son got me for my birthday, or it would be if the tweet worked. Here we go. Boom, 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 boom. And surely something's going to work at some point. That's me flying my drone. You got a drone. Had to happen sometime. I'm going to take this to Australia. It'll be easier to use in Australia. In Tokyo, you cannot use drones anywhere in Tokyo that are above 200 grams. Mine is 75 grams. For those mini drones that are less than 200 grams, they're not regulated in the same way as large drones. You can fly them outside anywhere that does not have people around or is not over a road or a railway line or power lines. If you meet all those criteria, you can fly drones in Tokyo. So I spotted an area in a park that I could practice with no people in it, and it was quite good fun. I'm going to do some more and figure out, and it shoots quite good video as well, 720p, but it streams quite well, so that was fun. So that was cool. Nissan, the whole inspection scandal, there's a whole thing, the investigation found that people were, apparently because they were, Nissan under the Gon regime was making people, factories compete to get production orders within the company. They were trying to inflate the number of certified engineers that they had who could do the inspections and so on, so that they could send the cars out faster, which meant that the cars were not being inspected properly by certified people. And it was kind of a lie that just perpetuated, and just people in panic just kept on doing. So that kind of sucked. Recently, an aggregator site in Japan, a conservative aggregator site, was it Hoshu Sokuho, the conservative news flash site, had a bunch of sites that were posting discriminatory articles against a particular Korean woman from Osaka. She sued the aggregator site rather than the original source sites, and the court ordered that she gets $20,000 damages, 22 million yen. So that is interesting. Apparently the world's first artificial shooting stars is going to be a meteor shower generated by sending small satellites into orbit and having them drop. In fact, is it going to be from satellites? But yeah, it's going to be over the inland sea in 2019 in Hiroshima, and it will be interesting. There's been some speculation that this might be something that they might want to do in the Olympics, to have a human-generated meteor shower, which would be interesting. Not sure if that's a good idea. Antitrust regulators now are starting to raid Airbnb over the trade practices. So, you know, they're cracking down on Airbnb. I've never used Airbnb. I know a lot of people who do, but they don't like the way that they operate their business here. And, you know, I guess there's a lot of pressure from hotel operators as well to try to shut them down, so they're doing that. Lotteria, which is kind of like a Korean version of McDonald's. They operate in Japan. They're not. They're like if you could imagine a cheaper version of McDonald's, that's kind of what Lotteria is. But they do interesting like promotion burgers. This one down the bottom, they just slammed a big piece of steak in the middle of a small hamburger bun. They're charging 20 bucks for it, 1900 yen, and they call it the steak burger. Some people looked at that and just said, well, why don't you just charge for a steak just separately? It looks kind of weird having it in the bun like that. I don't know. I'm kind of quasi tempted to try, except I'm sure that the steak is going to be kind of cheap meat as well. But if you want to try a new special burger special, that is it. And that's it. That's all the topics that I have ready for the show. So yeah, exactly. Cheaper version of Mac is no thanks. 2 comments there, by the way. So Odie Jr., have a good night. And Natalie, Australia's laws with drones are simple, not near airports. You must be able to see it with your eyes. Well, that's pretty simple and straightforward. And that's why I will probably take mine to Australia. I'll take it up to the school where there's no people around and go take a flight around if I can do that. And that is the show. I don't have any new tracks to play around with, but I think I might do a little bit of an outro playing around with a track that I was working on the other day that I don't think I've done on the show yet, but that will be it. I've got to make some new tracks, and that reminds me, I got an iRig 49 key keyboard. It's the new version that's coming out. I just put an order in for it. It should be in soon. And with that, I want to get into using GarageBand and iMachine again. I love Calculator because it's just so easy, but you know, it's limited for being able to make sort of more complex tracks, and so I would like to do that. By the way, and while I'm doing this, you can ask me anything that you like. I'm going to do the outro, so you can feel free to leave, but if you want to ask me any questions, do that at EcoSimon, and I will notice, because that orange stands out a lot in my comment feed. Let me plug in. In fact, that's right, I want to do this, and I want to do this, and then I want to do that, and then I want to do this, and let's do an outro track. And good night all, hope you enjoyed the show. Remember to like if you liked it, and see you same bat time, same bat place next week with more updates on the app as well. Hopefully, I'm really hoping we'll be in a place that it's moving forward. I'm hoping that this time next week we will be talking about invites for the beta for that, which will be really, really awesome. Robert Aldred, you just ordered an Amazon Dot, so Alexa will be there on on December 5th. Here's Alexa right here. This is the American one. I also got it. I think I showed you the other day already. Okay, Google. I got the Google Home Mini, didn't I? But this is the Japanese speaking one, so it won't understand. Doesn't understand. But there you go. That's some cool stuff. Let's do some drum and bass. That's what I did last week, and I realized I haven't turned on sound yet. So, boom. Good night. Good night. that's the show. Have a good night, everyone. Hope you have a good week, and see you soon. Boom. Peace. See ya.